Well, well, what's a useless woman like you doing here? This isn't a place for someone like you.
Even though we broke up, that's quite a way to talk, isn't it?
I don't need to be considerate with you.
Today was the anniversary party of the company run by my ex-husband. Who would willingly come to their ex-husband's place?
Don't tell me you came all this way out of spite after we broke up.
Huh? Of course not.
Then what are you doing here?
It wasn't out of spite as my ex-husband would think. I am here legitimately as an invited guest. My ex-husband wouldn't know such things. He doesn't care who comes here, a man uninterested in such details. For me, that was a relief. I have no obligation to explain anything to you.
Well, alright. I'll introduce you to someone, though.
The person my ex-husband brought was his mistress, already around when we were married. Ah, the mistress, right?
Hey, she's remarried now and the lady of the president. You're the one lower and standing now, aren't you? Right, infertile woman?
He continues to look down on me for being infertile. However, my ex-husband is missing two important points, whether I'm infertile or not, and the fact that I am a major shareholder of this company. The lady of the president, huh?
By the way, are you still continuing with the fertility treatments? What a struggle. All that effort for nothing.
I sighed and finally spoke to my ex-husband. Sorry to ruin your fun, but who did you say was infertile?
Huh? You can't be...
And so I told my ex-husband the truth. Then, realizing what was about to happen, he started to tremble. Seeing this, I couldn't wait for the revenge I was about to begin. My name is Jessica, and now I live a comfortable life. However, it wasn't an easy journey to get here. In my 20s, I worked as a secretary at a certain company. That's when I met Brian, who would later become my husband.
If someone like you were my secretary...
Oh, I'm just desperate every day.
Not at all. Even the president said things have been smoother thanks to you, Jessica.
I hope that's true. At that time, Brian was a newly minted president, just having started his own company. He frequently visited our company and we naturally became close. In fact, the president of the company I worked for was a relative of mine. Brian was well liked by him and quickly improved the company's performance. And about 6 months after meeting Brian...
Will you go out with me?
Well, I'm flattered, but we both have our positions to consider.
That's okay.
What do you mean?
I've already got permission from the president.
Brian had already received the president's approval. Moreover, the president was quite enthusiastic, even saying I should continue as Brian's secretary in his company.
Is that okay?
No, that's not it at all. I'm very happy. Thus, as we started dating, I also became Brian's secretary. I supported Brian desperately. Since then, I began to buy shares in the company just in case. Of course, without Brian knowing.
Every day, work is easier thanks to you, Jessica.
Well, I was trained tough at my previous company. I won't be daunted by a little adversity.
Keep supporting me like this forever by my side.
What? Was that? Brian had unknowingly proposed to me. Is that your way of proposing?
What? Oh.
Brian finally realized.
That was kind of lame.
I don't think so.
Really?
We both laughed. It was an awkward proposal, but in a way, it was just like us. From there on, everything went surprisingly smoothly. Meeting each other's parents went without any problems.
I've never been so nervous before.
But you were so confident and cool.
Really?
Now we can relax and become husband and wife.
Yeah.
And so we became a couple without any concerns. We respected each other in our married life and tried to divide our roles as much as possible. One thing I noticed after becoming his wife was that Brian tends to be forgetful, or you might say a bit airheaded. You forgot to dry the laundry again.
Huh? Really?
Really? I noticed it just now and did it myself.
Thanks. I'll try not to forget next time.
It might be cute once or twice, but when it happens repeatedly, it can be quite irritating. I did try to remind him, but when it didn't change, I convinced myself that's just how he is. Other than that, there were no particular problems. In fact, he was more than adequate as a husband. However, our life was about to change.
I've been thinking it might be time for us to have a child.
A child?
What do you think?
Brian looked a bit anxious. Perhaps he thought I might refuse. I've been thinking the same. Plus, I'd like to have one while I'm still in my 20s.
Really? That's great. It's been my dream to build a warm family since I was little.
Me too. I was 27 at that time. I was heading into my late 20s and wanted to have children by my mid-30s. Considering the growth of our current company, I thought now was the only chance. So we began trying to conceive, but even after 6 months, there were no signs of pregnancy. What's wrong, I wonder?
It's still early days. Maybe being pessimistic isn't good.
Yes, you're right.
So let's keep trying together.
I felt relieved by Brian's words. I would have felt terribly guilty if it turned out that I was the cause. To increase our chances of conceiving, I started checking basal body temperatures and ovulation dates, doing everything I could. Another half year passed and I still wasn't pregnant. Sorry.
Jessica, it's okay. Pregnancy is something we receive. It's not over yet.
Right. Getting disheartened isn't good. Then something else started to trouble us. Both our parents began saying they wanted to see their grandchildren. Such comments inevitably made us anxious, and our relationship began to slowly go off course.
Can I talk to you about something?
A discussion?
The company is on track now, so how about we pause our efforts to conceive for a bit?
But that means...
Our parents are just looking forward to it, not forcing us.
If that's what you think, Brian.
I'm sorry.
We decided to temporarily stop trying to conceive, but that was a mistake. I would realize that a bit later. Brian and I focused on work instead. The topic of children became taboo and we stopped bringing it up. That's when Brian told me something surprising. What do you mean?
The company has grown a lot, and the current workload is tough.
That might be true, but isn't it too sudden?
No, I think it should eventually come to this.
I had never heard such a thing before. I thought we could talk about anything.
Actually, I've already asked someone to come in. Please, come in.
The person who walked through the door was a young woman who looked to be in her early 20s.
This is Katie Irving, who will start working as a secretary trainee from today. Jessica, I want you to teach her everything.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Sorry, but I have to leave for a meeting now.
Then I'll also...
No, I'm going alone this time. Take care of everything here.
Saying that, Brian left the president's office. An awkward silence flowed between us, left behind. Nevertheless, I couldn't just sit there, so I decided to teach her the basics first. And then I was about to be even more surprised. Is this okay? Yes, perfect. I regretted my initial hesitation. Although I was wary because Brian brought her suddenly, she was very serious and diligent. She quickly understood and executed what I taught. Shall we take a break? Yes. Here, I decided to ask a question that had been on my mind. Katie, how did you meet Brian? Actually, it seems that my father and he were drinking buddies. My father pushed him to hire me. So that was the case. Sorry for the suddenness. Don't apologize. Actually, having you here has been a big help. I look forward to working with you. I thought we could work well together. And then that night.
So, how is Katie?
She's very serious and a good girl.
Is that so? Good.
With Katie's support, work began to go smoothly. Before I knew it, I had turned 29. We still didn't have any children. We hadn't discussed it as a couple since then, but I was really starting to feel anxious. Brian, about having kids.
Kids?
I'm already 29.
Isn't it still okay?
What? You used to want them so badly.
That was before, but now I want to focus on my work.
I couldn't believe how much he had changed from being so enthusiastic before. I had felt something was off when he first suggested taking a break from trying to conceive. You don't have someone else, do you?
What?
I regretted saying it. It was just a thought I had in my mind that accidentally slipped out. There was no turning back now. Well, if you suddenly say kids are fine, it makes one wonder, right?
There's no way. I'm not interested in anyone but you.
I was overwhelmed by his response.
Alright, let's start trying for a baby again from today.
Wait a minute, starting today?
You said it, didn't you? Let's go.
And so we resumed trying to conceive. I felt ashamed for even doubting Brian little when he had considered all this. I thought our relationship had returned to normal, but after a while, Brian started coming home late. He always said it was due to business dinners. As his secretary, I knew his schedule completely. Again, today?
Oh, sorry.
From now on, please keep me informed. It's also part of my job to manage your schedule.
Alright.
Brian answered reluctantly. He started to inform me about the days he had business dinners, but he wouldn't tell me where he was going. My suspicions about Brian never ceased, but I believed that having a child would resolve them. However, life has its ups and downs. Ultimately, I never got pregnant, and time mercilessly passed. I think there must be some reason we can't have children. Unable to hold back, I confronted my husband.
Are you saying it's my fault? Is that what you want to say?
That's not it.
Then what is it? Maybe you're worrying too much.
Brian lay on the sofa, casually responding to my concerns while playing with his phone. I should have demanded a more serious response. However, considering Brian's personality, I thought he was taking such an attitude, deliberately, to ensure I didn't worry alone about not being able to conceive. I used to feel that way in the past. You want kids too, don't you?
Of course I do. They might be my successor.
And having a family was your dream, right?
Of course. That hasn't changed.
Both Brian and I were only children and spent a lot of time alone at home as kids. Since both our parents worked, we had always dreamed of having a family. I had even thought about quitting my job once we had kids. That's why I have an idea.
An idea? Will that make us have kids?
I don't know, but I think it will help us move forward. What Brian desired was also what I desired, so I made a suggestion to Brian. Just to be sure, I'll go see a doctor next time.
Is that your idea? Is that really necessary?
Think of it as a regular checkup.
Maybe you're right.
If nothing's wrong, then that's great, isn't it?
But what if there is something?
If we find a cause, we can deal with it.
Alright, if you say so, go ahead.
I went to the hospital alone the following Saturday. I thought it wasn't necessary for Brian to come. I believed I had no issues myself. That's why I was eager to hear the test results. However, the results would not come until later, and that day I went home. 2 weeks later, the test results were delivered. I thought, why is it always me? I couldn't think of anything. I was so exhausted that I found myself at home without realizing it.
What's with the gloomy face?
They said I'm infertile.
Huh?
That's right. I was diagnosed with infertility. The atmosphere became heavy instantly with my words.
What are we going to do?
Brian seemed at a loss for words too, but there was still hope. It's true I was diagnosed with infertility, but it's not completely hopeless.
What do you mean?
If we undergo treatment, I can still get pregnant. I explained earnestly that if we start treatment now, it would be okay. I also explained that the chances of pregnancy decreases as we age, but Brian's expression remained dark.
Give me some time to think.
Since that day, our relationship, which we had worked so hard to build, began to grow cold. Are you eating at home today?
No, I have a dinner meeting again.
Understood. Eating alone felt as lonely as it did when I was a child. Going to the same company also became painful. During this time, Katie, concerned about me, showed her care.
You've been looking pale recently.
Yes, I'm okay. Sorry to worry you.
If there's anything I can do, please let me know.
Thank you. Katie, did you change your perfume?
Actually, yes. It was a gift from my boyfriend.
I was surprised to hear that she had a boyfriend, but seeing her happy face made me feel a bit lighter. However, the gloom returned when I got home. When I spoke to Brian, resting on the sofa, he responded disinterestedly. Since the day I confessed about my infertility, there had been no intimacy between Brian and me. Even on weekends, he seemed to not want to be at home, leaving early in the morning and returning late at night. Today he said he was going golfing, leaving home early and returning late.
Hi, Jessica.
Hi, Brian. How's your day? Perhaps it was better that he still greeted me. I took Brian's jacket and hung it up. That's when it happened. I smelled a familiar scent. I thought, where have I smelled this before? I felt like I could almost remember. Then, when I went to the office the following Monday, I realized it. It was the same scent as the perfume Katie was wearing. I thought, could it be Katie? It wasn't impossible. After all, Brian was the one who brought Katie into our lives. My mind was filled with doubts that they might be having an affair. I decided to take action to find out. Katie.
Yes, what is it?
I wanted to ask you something. What were you doing last Saturday?
Last Saturday? I was out with my boyfriend.
I was too scared to ask where they had gone.
Was there something wrong?
Oh, no, not really. I was just curious.
I see.
Katie didn't probe any deeper. She really is a good person. If she were Brian's affair partner, I wondered if I could really punish her. I thought, what should I really do? Our relationship had completely cooled off. I felt self-loathing and fear of facing the truth, unable to even sleep in the same bed. We lived in the same space but led separate lives. Brian also did not bring up anything to me. 6 months later, we talked at work, but hardly ever at home. Aren't you going out today? It was rare for him to be home on a holiday, and I initiated the conversation feeling nervous.
Sometimes I have days when I don't go out.
Right, of course. The conversation ended there, but I felt a bit relieved just by having Brian at home. However, when I went to get his clothes from the bedroom for laundry, that sweet scent was still there. Brian didn't even seem to try to hide it. It seemed like he was letting our marriage come to an end. If his affair partner was Katie, part of me had resigned to it. I thought if I were a man, I would choose Katie too. But things took a different turn than I expected. It happened while I was having lunch with Katie.
This is hard to say.
What is it?
Actually, it's about yesterday.
I was so shocked that my mind went blank. Are you sure about that?
Yes, I wasn't sure if I should do this.
Saying that, she showed me a photo she had taken on her smartphone. This is definitely Brian. Thank you. I feel somewhat relieved now.
Huh?
I had a feeling Brian was cheating, but
Really?
I suspected that you might be the other woman. I'm sorry.
But why me?
The perfume smelled the same, and your coming here was so sudden. Then she sighed.
I would never betray you, Jessica. I am here because of you.
Hearing her words, I felt tears welling up. To think I had doubted a coworker who trusted me so much. I'm glad to hear you say that.
But what will you do now?
I'll confront Brian with this evidence.
Could it lead to a divorce?
It might, but don't worry, even if it does, I won't let it affect you.
No way. Please let me know if there's anything I can do.
Thank you. However, I thought it wasn't right to involve Katie any further. Brian had said he was going to a dinner again today, probably to meet his affair partner. I waited for Brian's return.
Hi, Jessica.
Hi, Brian. We need to talk.
Talk? Wait for me a moment.
After a while, he came to the living room looking rather haggard.
So, what's this talk about? I'm tired and want to go to sleep soon.
It won't take long. Thus, I showed my husband the photo. Brian stared at the photo, eyes wide.
When did you...
Well, if it's that obvious, anyone starts to suspect things.
Then you understand, right?
That I want a divorce?
Exactly. A useless person like you is no longer needed. You can't even have kids. Besides, the other woman is pregnant.
Brian said, laughing. Then, let's get a divorce.
Oh, that helps. Don't worry about compensation, I'll pay whatever you ask.
He was probably too comfortable because he's the company president, but I refused to accept the compensation. Brian's condescending attitude irritated me. Besides, I wasn't financially desperate. Since we're divorcing anyway, tell me about this affair partner.
Well, if you insist, I'll tell you.
The woman was apparently in her mid-20s. They met at a nightclub he visited with a client. I felt a bit pathetic that I lost to a nightclub worker. How could a married man like you start a relationship?
No, I started dating her with the intention of divorcing.
But didn't she have a boyfriend?
She did, but I guess my charm won. No guy around could compete with me.
Hearing all this, everything started to seem meaningless.
Oh, I forgot to say. But get out of the house, and you're fired.
I was planning on that anyway.
Then leave by tomorrow.
The divorce went through without issue, and I temporarily returned to my parents' home. Though they were surprised, they respected my decision. Brian apparently started living with the other woman after the divorce was finalized. I heard from Katie that they planned to remarry when the time was right. Katie is still working hard as a secretary. With her capabilities, she'll be fine without me. It's been 10 years since I returned home. As I was settling into my new life, I received an invitation to a party from my ex-husband's company. It seemed to be a celebration of the company's anniversary. Hello? It was a call from Katie.
It's been a while, Jessica.
Katie, how have you been?
I'm managing somehow. Did the invitation arrive?
Yes, I received it.
I want you to come.
What? But I'm not involved anymore.
The current president is out of control. The other employees say you might be the only one who can do something.
I can't do that now. Then I realized something. I still had influence. Actually, I guess it does involve me.
So?
Okay, I'll attend. Although Brian, as president, was doing whatever he wanted, I felt a bit of a desire for revenge. This would greatly disrupt his life. At the event, many people approached me. They were capable I had known when I worked as a secretary. While catching up with them...
Well, well, what's a useless woman like you doing here? This isn't a place for someone like you.
Even though we broke up, that's quite a way to talk, isn't it?
I don't need to be considerate with you.
Who would willingly come to their ex-husband's place? I certainly didn't come to see Brian.
Don't tell me you came all this way out of spite after we broke up.
Huh? Of course not.
Then what are you doing here?
I hadn't come out of spite. Sure, a little revenge was on my mind, but there was something more important. Brian didn't understand why I was there. He should have seen the guest list. For me, that was a relief. I'm not obligated to explain anything to you.
Well, alright. I'll introduce you to someone, though.
The woman my ex-husband brought was the mistress I had seen in the photos. Ah, the mistress, right?
Hey, she's remarried now and the lady of the president. You're the one lower in standing now, aren't you? Right, infertile woman?
He continues to look down on me for being infertile. How long will he keep saying such things? He's missing two important points. Whether I'm infertile or not, and the fact that I am a major shareholder of this company. The lady of the president, huh?
By the way, are you still continuing with the fertility treatments? What a struggle. All that effort for nothing.
Why do you keep bringing up the past?
Besides, my heir has already been born.
I sighed and finally spoke to my ex-husband. Sorry to ruin your fun, but who did you say was infertile?
Huh? You can't be...
Exactly. Look at this. I showed Brian a photo of my daughter.
Is this your child? Not someone else's?
She's definitely my own child. I got pregnant easily. They said I was infertile, but it seems there was no issue at all.
That can't be.
It's true. But I wonder why it was so easy to get pregnant. Maybe it was someone else's fault.
What are you talking about?
At that moment, I looked at the mistress next to Brian. She turned her face away. Just as I thought. Is that child really yours?
Of course, right?
He sought confirmation from the mistress, but she said nothing. That's your answer.
No, I don't believe it. I won't believe it.
The surrounding people, sensing something was wrong, began to murmur. Well, maybe you should get a DNA test. That'll clear everything up.
You're joking.
Brian raised his hand at me. Just when he seemed about to strike, a voice stopped him.
Please stop, President.
Katie?
Jessica is indispensable to this company. If you do that...
She's just a useless woman. She has no relation to me anymore.
At that point, I revealed another secret. Shall I tell you something?
What?
I'm a major shareholder of this company.
You are?
Originally, I bought shares to help you, but before I knew it, it led to this, thanks to you.
What do you mean?
You were the one providing most of the living expenses, and I managed the money, right?
With that money, huh?
Exactly how much did we have again? I asked Katie.
Jessica has been purchasing shares every month, and last month she acquired the majority.
That's right. That means I can make ordinary resolutions on my own now. Realizing what was about to happen, my ex-husband started to tremble.
You can't be serious.
The general meeting of shareholders is a little way off, right? And it seems your reputation within the company isn't very good. I can't just ignore these issues.
Wait, if you do that, I'll be...
Just look forward to it. With that, I left the venue. Brian, sitting slumped over, looked rather comical. I couldn't wait to see the revenge play that was about to begin. Eventually, the general meeting of shareholders came around. I thought, now this is the main event. Until now, I had not interfered or voiced my opinions on company policies. However, decisions had to be made to protect the company. And now I had the right to make those decisions. I propose the dismissal of the current CEO. Applause erupted from the other shareholders. I could have handled it alone, but I wanted everyone to decide. As a result, Brian's dismissal was approved by more than 2/3 of the shareholders. Just as I was about to leave the meeting...
Hey, wait.
What are you doing here?
How could you do this?
Huh? This is all your own doing. I merely exercised my rights.
Don't you have any compassion for your ex-husband?
Why would I? Besides, you're not the president anymore, so please leave quickly.
You'll see.
Maybe you should focus on what you need to do now. Try your best. With that, I left the venue. Brian couldn't do anything more. What a foolish man. He would lose everything after this.
Great job today.
When I got home, Katie called me. Thank you. From now, the company's safe. Oh, but we need to decide on a new president soon.
About that?
Yes?
No, it's nothing.
Keep up the good work. I'm supporting you. With that, I hung up. Surely Katie would do well under the new president. About a month after the shareholder meeting, Brian called me. I reluctantly answered the phone.
You were right.
About what? Honestly, I had stopped caring about Brian.
It's about the child.
Oh, and?
It wasn't my child. It was her ex-boyfriend's child, and there's more.
Brian explained in detail. It seemed he had divorced the woman who was his mistress, but it turned out she had been using him all along. The story of her breaking up with her boyfriend was a lie, and her plan was to milk the president Brian for all he was worth. Regarding the child, he had been raising someone else's child for nearly 10 years. Well, at least you know the truth now.
What good does that do? I've lost everything. My position, my family, everything.
And that was your fate. Just start over from scratch. Although I told Brian that, I didn't really mean it. Whatever happened to him didn't matter to me, and I hoped he would struggle. Don't call me anymore, it's annoying. I hung up and immediately blocked his number. I thought that would finally bring peace.
I'd like you to attend the next shareholder meeting as well.
Is something happening?
If you could come.
Her statement was ambiguous, and as she suggested, I attended, and something unexpected occurred. About a year later, I was in the president's office.
It's been a year since then.
Who would have thought I'd be sitting in this chair?
It suits you.
I was appointed as the CEO at the meeting. It was nearly unanimous. At first I hesitated, but with support from my current husband, I made up my mind. I'm looking forward to working with you.
Yes, I'll support you with all my strength.
Today's forecast called for rain, but the sky was cloudless and sunny. It seemed like the weather was blessing our future.